Well, hello there and welcome back. I'm Miss Henderson and I'm here to just share uh, this week with you. It's been a wonderful week. Um, because it's Black History Month, we've been celebrating Black history at our school. And it's been fun. I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite celebrations is to celebrate Black History Month and to teach youngsters and others about the contributions of African Americans throughout history. Black History Month is not an opportunity to cause division. It's to bring about unity and mutual respect. African Americans have a very rich history, and all of our history may not be pretty, but all of our history has not been a struggle either. And one of the things that concerns me is when we talk about Black history, there are only a few names that people readily bring up and toss out. And while those names and those individuals are noble and due all the respect and honor that they receive, there are many, many, many more whose names we do not speak or honor. And I think it is a disservice to those. I think it is a disservice to Black History Month and Black history in general to look over certain areas and only focus on one aspect of our history. As I indicate to my students, we do need to know where we come from to know where we're going. We need to know our history so that we can make sure that it doesn't repeat itself, the negative portions of our history. But we need to know how great we are, how great we were, and how great we can and will be. It all works together. It's the full journey. And there's so much. A month is not long enough to find out everything there is about Black history. And what concerns me is that a lot of our history is being lost because generations are not passing it down to the next generation. And our children, I introduced them to the Black National Anthem this week. That was one of the lessons that I taught. And I printed the lyrics, and we discussed the lyrics stanza by stanza or verse by verse, and trying to get them to understand, what they meant, what each portion of it meant, and we deciphered it and then put it back together. And it was interesting to find out that several of my students who are African American or Black, they said they didn't even know there was a Black national anthem. That concerns me. We can't lose our history. We must tell the story and tell it to each new generation and tell it over and over again till they know. There's nothing new under the sun. And if we're not careful, history can and will repeat itself. As a matter of fact, it can be same thing but look a little bit different. So you have to watch all this and know the signs and symptoms and symbols. Black history is not only about slavery, but there were individuals who made many contributions that demonstrate the brilliance within the Black community. I had a teacher today who was so excited because he was decorating his door for Black history. And he came to me just excited and smiled and said, "Here I go, I have something. This is the best one, isn't it?" Now, this particular teacher is not an African American or a Black American, and a very nice man, one of my favorite co-workers. However, the picture that he showed to me has been, everybody knows that picture. He says, "This is the best one, isn't it?" That's the most popular one. But he's dead. And so does that mean that our history and our culture are there? There are plenty who are alive now, plenty who contributed to this person's movement. We can't pull out the same photograph and throw out the same names every year. You don't need a month for that. We need to dig deeper. He teaches math. So I said, why didn't you look up African American mathematicians or Black mathematicians? Because he said, I don't know where to find them. I don't know where to find. Everybody know about Google and Siri and dictionary. You know, if you want to do some research, you can do it. He didn't bother to look, and I'm not mad at him about that. I'm glad that he at least participated to some extent. However, I clicked on and put in the search engine. So now the responsibility, I feel, falls on me totally with our students to tell them as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And so I did search up Black mathematicians, Black scientists, Black historians, Black doctors, Black attorneys, and and printed pictures and this, that, and the other. Black billionaires, millionaires in the non-entertainment field or non-sports field, and made another display for our children to see and to identify themselves with those types of roles in life. They have to see themselves there. And so I did another display for that. Earlier this week, it was really funny. I came in character as an African American figure in history. I was Little Miss Ruby Bridges. And initially, the children didn't know who I was because I was in character all day long, pretty much, between introducing Miss Bridges. Miss Henderson was there to introduce Miss Bridges, and then Ruby took over. And the children seemed engaged. Now, this is high school that I teach, and they seemed engaged, and it was interesting to them. They did ask Ruby some questions, and one of the questions they asked Miss Henderson was, is Ruby still alive? And so I was prepared for that question, and I had my projector ready, and I pulled up one of her, well, I had already had one of her most recent TED Talks in queue. And so when I turned it on and they saw the real Ruby Bridges, they were amazed that history is still alive and talking and walking. And what was really interesting is that we have a little problem with attendance and so forth with students, don't want to come to school and this, that, and the other. And when I explained to them that this was a 6-year-old child who had to walk through a mob of people who were threatening her, yelling out horrible insults and being very offensive, disrespectful to the 6-year-old little bitty child. You have mobs and mobs of people, she's a big threat. And she had to go through that every day for an entire year, with U.S. Marshals escorting her. And I explained to them, look, you can walk freely in the door. Why don't you come on in? I think that was a seed that was planted, and it will resonate with them later. Back to the national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. I also, once we talked about the song, I played a video of the HBCU National Concert Choir virtually performing the song, the Roland Carter arrangement, which is the best, and I believe it is the way that John Rosamond Johnson meant for it to be performed, and James Weldon Johnson, in his writing of the original poem that he allowed his brother to, he asked his brother to set to music, and then the NAACP later adopted it. Now, all of this information that I just shared with you, there was a lot in there that our students did not know. NAACP. Then I had to say NAACP. And then I had to say the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Then we had to go into, what was it for? Southern Christian Leadership. All these things our children now are not aware of, and what it took for us to be where we are now. They're able to walk through the front doors of their school because Ruby Bridges bravely did that at 6 years old, and her family suffered. And then just think about this child, although she was escorted by U.S. Marshals into the building, and where she was met by the only teacher who was willing to teach her. Can you imagine what might have been going through her mind, not knowing a lot of stuff at 6 years old? She could have been worried that those U.S. Marshals who looked like the mob, and that lady, the teacher who met her inside, who also looked like the people in the mob, what if they change their mind and they decide they want to join the mob? That had to be a concern of hers. All of a sudden, you're protecting me and taking me in and handing me over to this lady, but what if eventually one day you say, I belong with that group and I'm going to turn? And a lot was probably going through that young child's mind. Their family suffered. Father lost his job. Merchants wouldn't do business with the dad or with the family because the other members of the community refused to do business with them if they did. It was just a big mess. And there are so many other stories and things that go on. And we need to really check our history and understand it and see where we are today. How much further along we are, and what are we doing to improve things for ourselves and to be united. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I enjoy celebrating and teaching about our history. Some of the reasons we do what we do now, I introduced them to, I directed them to, because they have these fancy phones, you can Google and Siri, Alexa, and research anything, at the click of a button. Whereas in my day, we had to do the Dewey Decimal System and run around, and you had to actually move. But now, anything you want to know, you can pretty much pick up your phone and find it out, or at least on your laptop or desktop on the computer. So there's no excuse for not knowing. But I will direct them where to look. So I directed them in a few areas, and if you are not familiar with it, I use this opportunity to direct you there as well. Very interesting, and some of this may answer some questions, and just to know. The first thing is Willie Lynch, the Willie Lynch letter. Familiarize yourself with that. The second thing is the significance of Anna, Illinois. ANNA, Illinois. Okay? look that up and dig deep and see what you come up with that. There's a website, withoutsanctuary.org, and it's to do with an American picker, like a salvager or a junker or that type of person. His name is James Allen. The website is withoutsanctuary.org. And he does have some video footage and so forth there. That's not for the faint of heart, but I believe it is necessary to know this part of African American or Black history. This happened. And you may rethink the term picnic. The next thing I would have you look into, let's see, it's so much to, well, let's just stop there for now. I think that's enough for now. And see what you, in the comments, tell me in the comments what you found out, and, you know, it is what it is. I didn't make this up, and I can't change it. Thank you so much for joining me today for my little short talk on Black history. I like my shirt. I've had this for a number of years, and I generally do not wear t-shirts, but this is one that I do like, and I like to wear it to school every so often, and I thought it was befitting for now. I hope that you liked the content, appreciated the content, and that you would click the like button, click the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And again, I would like your comments, so share your comments. Any suggestions for something that I might delve into concerning Black history would be great. You know, we have Black Wall Street. There's just so much to know about, good and not so good. But there are more than 2 or 3 people involved in Black history and the Civil Rights Movement. 2 people could not have done it. It took a lot. And another thing, this is not an opportunity to have black against white and get mad at all white people. And no, because I'll tell you, again, Barbara Henry was the one white teacher from Boston who did teach Ruby Bridges. And they have been friends ever since. Barbara Henry endured because none of the teachers would have anything to do with her, and she was new in town. She was from Boston, and she was accustomed to diversity because she had taught in Paris, and she had gone to college in Boston with very, you know, different cultures and so forth, different races. So she was accustomed to that, and she really didn't even know what she was stepping into when she went to New Orleans to teach first grade. She and her husband moved there because he wanted to be closer to his family after he left the military, which is where they met and married. And she was there in New Orleans for 1 whole year. And then after that, when she and her husband were expecting their first child, they moved back to Boston so that she could be closer to her family for the birth of their first child. So there were a lot of white people or non-black people involved with the Civil Rights Movement, involved in everything from the Underground Railroad through today. So this is not against any other culture, and it's not making black people better. It's just letting us know we belong here. We're great. We have greatness in us just like anybody else. And we have contributed to this country and the world in a magnificent way. And we will continue to do so. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk with you again real soon. God bless you.